I had always believed that trust was the foundation of marriage. For 6 years, I thought my wife, Amanda, and I had built that foundation strong enough to withstand anything. But that Friday morning, as she looked at me with those eyes I used to lose myself in, I realized how fragile it truly was. "I need a break," she said, voice trembling yet steady, as if she had rehearsed it for weeks. My stomach dropped. Break? In our marriage? I searched her face for clues, for hesitation, for anything that could reassure me. But there was none. Only certainty. My name is Daniel, and for the first time in our relationship, I felt blindsided. Amanda and I had always been partners, sharing the weight of bills, responsibilities, and dreams. We had argued, yes, but never like this. Her words, simple yet devastating, sliced through the normalcy of our life. I need space to figure things out," she continued. "Things have been complicated, and I need to understand what I really want." I nodded slowly, trying to hide the storm inside me. I had no idea that her break wasn't just about reflection. It was about someone else. I learned that someone else had returned to town that same week. His name was Eric, Amanda's ex-boyfriend, the man she had dated before me, the one she always claimed was over. But now, months or years later, his sudden return had stirred something in her, a memory or a desire that she hadn't shared with me. It wasn't jealousy that hit me first, but a cold, sinking realization. The break wasn't for us, it was for him. I tried to stay calm, carefully choosing my words. "Amanda, I don't understand. Are you saying this is about Eric?" My voice, though measured, trembled slightly. She looked down, fiddling with the bracelet on her wrist, avoiding my gaze. "It's complicated, Daniel. I need to figure out who I am, who I want to be with." The truth was clear, though she wouldn't say it outright. Her heart was pulled in 2 directions, and I was standing on the edge of a chasm I hadn't seen forming. For hours, I replayed the conversation in my mind, dissecting every nuance, every pause, every subtle gesture. I couldn't act impulsively. I had to think, plan, and prepare. The woman I loved was testing boundaries I didn't even know existed. And somewhere deep inside, I realized this was not just about her. It was about reclaiming the respect, the trust, and the marriage I had believed was unshakable. The next few days were a blur of tension and uncertainty. Amanda moved into her sister's apartment temporarily, insisting she needed space to think. I respected her request outwardly, but inside, I was anything but calm. Every text, every phone call, every delayed reply sent my mind spiraling. I couldn't help but imagine her meeting Eric, walking the streets we once strolled together, laughing at jokes I wasn't part of. The thought was unbearable. Yet I knew I had to keep my composure. I decided to focus on understanding the situation, not reacting impulsively. I started paying closer attention to her conversations, the subtle ways she mentioned Eric, the tone in her voice when his name came up. Amanda didn't realize how much I observed, how much I pieced together from the smallest details. It wasn't about stalking, it was about seeing the truth clearly before making a move. I had to know whether this break was truly about her self-discovery, or just a cover for rekindling something she had left behind. Then one evening, the moment of revelation arrived. A mutual friend texted me casually, "Hey, just saw Amanda and Eric grabbing coffee downtown. They looked close." My heart sank, not with anger, but with a sharp clarity that the situation was far more complicated than I had imagined. I knew then that sitting idly by was no longer an option. I had to act, but strategically. This wasn't a confrontation to be won with yelling or guilt. It was a delicate negotiation with truth, trust, and timing. I called Amanda, asking to meet at a quiet cafe, neutral ground, somewhere familiar but not emotionally charged. She arrived, composed as ever, but I could see the slight tension in her posture. She knew why I had asked to meet. I didn't start with accusations. Instead, I let silence hang, giving her the moment to brace herself. "Amanda," I began carefully, "I know Eric's back in town. I know you've seen him. And I know you're trying to figure things out. But I need to understand where we stand. Not to control you, but to know if the foundation we've built still exists." Her eyes flickered, the briefest sign of guilt or hesitation crossing her face. She opened her mouth then paused. The words she had rehearsed for weeks didn't come out smoothly. Instead, they stumbled, revealing the truth she had tried to hide. Her heart had indeed been stirred, but not entirely. There were still pieces of us that mattered. The confrontation wasn't over, but the first layer of truth had finally been peeled back. I took a deep breath, letting her hesitation guide the conversation rather than my frustration. "Amanda," I said softly but firmly, "I'm not here to argue or pressure you. I need to know if we can rebuild, or if this break is really the end." Her eyes, glossy with emotion, met mine. For the first time in days, I saw the real Amanda. Not the confident, self-assured woman who could casually drop bombs, but the woman torn between past and present, desire and loyalty, love and curiosity. She swallowed hard, voice quivering as she finally spoke. "Daniel." Part of me thought seeing Eric again might, I don't know, remind me of what I had before. But being with him, I realized what I'm really missing isn't from the past, it's from us. I didn't want to admit it, but leaving, even for a break, made me see what I almost lost. Relief and disbelief collided inside me. This wasn't a victory won through manipulation or confrontation. It was honesty, raw and unfiltered. And it was more powerful than any argument I could have had. I reached across the table, taking her hand in mine. "Amanda, this break, it scared me. Not because I didn't trust you, but because it reminded me how quickly things can unravel if we stop communicating. If we stop being present for each other." Her fingers tightened around mine, and I felt the tension in her body soften. We weren't perfect, and we had been dangerously close to unraveling, but there was still a thread connecting us, fragile, yet unbroken. We spent the next hour talking, openly and painfully honest. I asked the questions I had been too cautious to ask before. The doubts, the fears, the unspoken resentments. She answered with the truth, even when it stung, even when it forced her to confront uncomfortable feelings about the past. And for the first time in days, I felt like we were partners again, not just in marriage, but in facing the realities that threatened to tear us apart. By the time we left the cafe, the city was quiet, the night air crisp and grounding. Amanda leaned on my shoulder as we walked, a silent acknowledgement of the fragility and resilience of what we had. The night had been wild, terrifying, and sobering. Eric's presence had been a catalyst, but the real lesson wasn't about him. It was about us, about recognizing the cracks, facing the truths, and choosing to stay. That night, as we returned home, I realized something profound. Marriage isn't just about trust or love or shared memories. It's about confronting fear, navigating uncertainty, and sometimes surviving the storms that seem capable of breaking everything. And when you do survive, truly survive, you find not just relief but strength, understanding, and a deeper connection than you ever imagined possible.